Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald, and you can see that I'm recording in my game room today instead of the little corner that normally I would be talking to you from, but I thought this would be a little bit more of an interesting background. The room is a lot bigger though than the room that I normally record in, so if the audio is too boomy, please send me a comment and I'll see if I can do something about that. But I thought this background is a lot more fun than the plain beige that I was using before. I'm really excited to talk about this episode's game. It's a cooperative game, a trick-taking game, and it's been nominated for the German Board Game Award. Now, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of that even though my wife's family is from Germany, I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of that award, but it's a little game called The Crew. The Quest for Planet 9 is the little subtitle you can see there. This is a game that can be played with between 3 and 5 players, but there are rules to play it as a 2-player game. It plays in about 20 minutes, and it's appropriate for kids age 10 and up. Let's take a look at The Crew, and maybe you'll be able to see why it's been nominated for that board gaming award. Now, if you look over here, you'll see that there are some cards that I've laid out just so you can see what the cards look like. Trick-taking games are, well, Hearts is a great example of a trick-taking game, and Hearts is the game that I used to play all through university. So it's a game where each player is playing a card and the high card wins. Usually in those games there's a suit, a trump suit, which will defeat every other card and win the trick, even if it's not the highest number. So you can see here we have some little cards that are in different colors. So the idea of The Crew is that you're a team of astronauts and you're trying to make your way back to Earth, and you have a number of different missions that you have to perform. One of the things I like about this game is that it is divided up with instructions that gradually ramp up the difficulty. So there's 50 different missions that you'll play. You can choose to play them in any order, but if you play them in numerical order, there's a story that the game tells, and it's gradually introducing players to the various rules of the game. So that's a perfect way, especially for younger kids, to learn how to play a game like this. So these little cards right here represent the 4 suits, and they've got little symbols beside them, and those symbols are so that people who are colorblind will still be able to tell the difference between the cards of different colors. The numbers up here that I've pulled out are well, this is how they increase the difficulty of the different tasks that you're doing in these missions. So these are your task cards, so you draw those from a larger deck, and depending on the difficulty of the mission that you're trying to do, there's going to be a different number of these cards, and you might have to do them in a certain order. So this one, you might have to win a trick with this card, and that might have to be the first one that you win. And so it goes on like that. This little symbol at the end is that this one has to be the last task that you accomplish in the game. I've put the little astronaut here. He's the symbol that shows who the commander is for each mission. When you get a certain card, you're going to be the commander. So what's happening here in this trick-taking game is that you've got a hand of cards, a large hand of cards. So you deal out the entire deck, and the cards look, well, just exactly like these smaller ones that I've shown you below. There is one extra, this little rocket ship. Now the rocket is the trump suit, so there's only 4 of them in the deck, but the rocket's always going to win no matter what color is being played on the board. So what you'll be doing is trying to play your cards so that you can win these tricks in a certain order. That's what makes it interesting. As a cooperative game, like many cooperative games, you might have heard of Pandemic, you might have heard of Forbidden Island or Forbidden Desert. There's a whole series of games like that. And what you're doing in those cooperative games is the players are kind of running around the board trying to put out fires until they can eventually make it to some win condition, whatever the condition is that determines victory. But here it's a lot different. It is still a cooperative game, but you're trying to win those or accomplish those tasks, win those tricks in a certain order, and you're not allowed to communicate except in one special way. So you can't it solves to an extent the problem of one player in a cooperative game taking over and sort of telling everybody else what to do, which I think is a really good thing for these kinds of cooperative games, especially when you've got adults and kids playing together, or older siblings and younger siblings, where one might tend to take over and try to be the boss of everybody else. You're not allowed to talk about the hands that are, the cards, pardon me, that are in your hands, except in a special way. And the special way that you're talking about it is kind of it's the skill that I wanted to share with you. So you've got also, in addition to the little commander token and the cards, you've got these little astronaut helmets, and there's a green side and a red side. So once per mission, you can put one of these, put a card on the table so everyone can see it, and you put this communication token on it. This is how you tell people what's in your hand. So if you put it at the top of the card, it means that this card is the highest of that color that you have. If you put it at the bottom, this card is the lowest of that color. And if you put it in the middle like this, that means it's the only card of that color that you have. And this is the interesting way that you're going to be working on a skill by playing this game. It's the skill of quantitative reasoning, because you need to make some judgments about the magnitude of the cards in your hands in order to make sure that you win those tricks in the right order. The right person has to get that card that's identified, by the task that you're trying to accomplish. Some of the missions even, you might have one player who's not allowed to win any. In fact, we played one the other night where the one player had to win the first 4 missions, and then another player was only allowed to win the final one. So it really makes it hard when your only communication is that once per game you can put one card on the table so everybody sees what you have. So you're working on quantitative reasoning. You've got to judge the magnitude of the card, you've got to, relative to the other cards in the deck, and then you've got to think about those probabilities in terms of what cards the other players might have. So we were playing only with 3 players, which made it a little bit easier. When you've got 5 players, it's the potential combinations of cards and all of the communication that has to happen becomes, I think, a lot more complicated. So you might have players that aren't allowed to win at all. And that's another skill that I think is neat about this cooperative game. So it's a cooperative game that's set up where one person can't be the boss of everybody else. He can't sort of order people around and tell them what to do because there's no communication. But also you're practicing a little bit. For those competitive kids, I think this is good because they have to win things in a certain order. They can't be trying to constantly win every hand. They might not be allowed to win any hands, and they might purposely be trying not to win in order to accomplish those missions. And if they make a mistake, then it's game over and everyone loses. So it's a game where everyone wins or everyone loses. And I think that's good for the really competitive kids because it allows them to compete against the game, and then they can cope with losing or hopefully being a good winner, but you get to be a good winner with everybody together. So there's a social aspect to the game that I think is really good, a good thing for kids to practice. So that is a quick overview of the crew. There are a few other things I didn't get into too much detail about, but this is a great little cooperative game to help. I think it's something that can be helpful for competitive kids who have trouble coping with losing a game, and it's great practice in terms of that quantitative reasoning. So that's a quick overview of the crew. A great little cooperative game that can help kids practice coping with losing, can prevent kids from being sore winners or from taking over and taking the lead from their younger siblings. It's a game where you're also practicing those quantitative reasoning skills. And honestly, it's a game that's a lot of fun. So if there are any questions or comments or suggestions, and again, if the audio is too boomy, please send me a comment or email me at brian@brainsongames.ca. Brainsongames.ca is the website where you can find previous episodes, and future episodes will be posted there too. And Brains on Games is the Twitter handle and the Instagram feed. And so Brains on Games is all over the place now. You can find me everywhere. Leave me your comments and suggestions. Email me if there's anything you have questions about, or if there's a game behind me that you'd like me to try out on the show. And hopefully you'll join me for the next episode.